Good evening, you're watching Scotland at 7 on Broadcasting Scotland. Today I'm joined by Peter Curran, independent online activist and the man behind the channel Moradura. So, basically, over the last week there's been a big discussion surrounding the BBC, YouTube, Moradura and Wings Over Scotland. Now, on Friday the 27th of July, your YouTube channel had been taken down. Do you want to quickly... 27th, sorry, yes. What did I say?
I thought it was 22nd.
Yeah, so, yes, it was taken down. Did you want to quickly talk us through what happened there and for anyone that's maybe not up to speed on the situation, just bring us all up to speed?
Sure, Lindy. I was having lunch in my village, which incidentally hosted the first Scottish Parliament in 1235, the Three Estates. Came back from the local pub to find I had no YouTube channel and a missive from YouTube saying 12 copyright strikes have been registered against you, all of which had the BBC's name on them as the originator, BBC, and you have exceeded the three copyright strikes. Your YouTube channels, because I have two, are closed down.
Mm-hmm. And what I think people would like to know is, why did this happen? How did the situation come about?
Well, the short answer is, certainly at that time, I didn't know. To try and give you what led up to that, I started my YouTube channel very tentatively back in 2008, because YouTube was comparatively new. I put up a clip. I managed to get established on YouTube and be able to put up a clip. I put up a clip which I had produced myself from still photographs with a commentary in support of John Mason's candidacy in the Glasgow East by-election. And it was me talking over, saying I was a Glasgow East Ender, blah, blah, blah. And then I watched what was happening on YouTube, because it was evolving at that time. And I realised that people were using clips of television channels which clearly must have been copyright. And I've been highly aware throughout my whole career of the pitfalls and the dangers of the law of copyright and infringing it. Notably, one at the time called Baron Sarwar of Govan, who was doing a series of very effective... I never knew who he was. I don't think anybody did there then or subsequently. He was very effective. And I thought, well, how do I find out what to do? So I examined the YouTube rules, which were crystal clear. I have no doubt at all what they were. You may post a clip if you own the copyright, or it's your own original production and contains no copyright material by anybody else, or if the copyright holder or holders have given you explicit permission to use it. If you do that, they may give you conditional approval and right to use it, providing, one, that you do not monetize the clip. In other words, many YouTube channels are monetized, whole or in part. Two, that you do not permit embedding. In other words, other people can't use the code on YouTube and embedding, and providing, if they so wish, you allow the copyright holder to place commercial ads or publicity on your channel. And this is the operative phrase: if you agree to these conditions, you need do nothing further. De facto, you've accepted that. Now, I've never monetized any clips in my channel. I did permit generally embedding. I was happy to comply with all of these things. So I tried, first of all, clipping. And I mean clipping, taking a tiny part of a broadcast like Newsnight Scotland or the news and various programmes that were on, and there was no challenge. I then later on pushed that to sometimes putting entire programmes, like sometimes I'd put up the whole of Newsnight Scotland, or the whole of Reporting Scotland Evening News. Now, it was the totality of them, sometimes with comment from me, often with no comment. And they were never challenged. Now, my rationale for doing that was quite simply, I thought the BBC, as a public service broadcaster, the people own the BBC because they fund it through the licence fee. and they're providing a public duty to the people of Britain and Scotland, to the United Kingdom. Therefore, if I'm financing this channel, unless the BBC has an accessible archive that any viewer can look back on, many of these very important clips, very important to the politics of the UK over a very volatile and unpredictable period, and the Scottish independence lead up to the referendum, were a vital part of history. And I wasn't far from doing the BBC any harm by posting them. It was costing me time, effort and money to do this, because I wasn't doing other work that would have been fee earning, bluntly. And I wasn't doing the BBC any harm. All I was doing was perhaps archiving things that they had not made public or perhaps hadn't even archived. Now, I know for a fact, and can't quote the source, that throughout the 9-year life of my channel, significant BBC figures access my archive to find out what had happened because they couldn't find it in the BBC archive. So I thought I was providing a public service, yes, from an independent standpoint, but I was providing a service to the Scottish electorate of key points and also capturing, for as long as YouTube was prepared to carry it, some very carefully crafted and inspired little inputs by the professionals working for the BBC. Because if you leave aside the whole question of bias, some of these clips, often in the lead into a programme, are a completely objective set of what's happening now. There are graphics saying this has happened with Brexit, this has happened. They are absolutely factual. And in most of them, I have to say, there was no bending of the facts, because the BBC has an international reputation to protect as being objective. I do believe that the BBC had an inbuilt tendency, perhaps more than that, to defend the status quo, Lindy. They are, after all, the British Broadcasting Corporation. They were set up by Lord Reith, a Scotsman, to inform and educate the British state as he knew it. But the British state is not the British government. The state is the continuity that protects the integrity of the nation against successive changes of politicians. So I felt I was doing a service, not harming anybody, but yes, I loaded my viewpoint into them. I had never had a challenge from the BBC. I did have many instances, almost exclusively concentrated in 2 programmes, where YouTube notified me that there had been a copyright claim. Now, they were almost always for one of these reasons. One, an independent production company had produced the programme for the BBC. For example, in Question Time, seen as a BBC programme, David Dimbleby, the archetypal BBC man following in a dynasty from his father, Richard Dimbleby. Nonetheless, it was produced by a commercial company, Mentorn, which is now based in Scotland, has its HQ in Scotland. So occasionally I would get from Google YouTube a statement which said, copyright has been claimed in this video, providing you do 3 things as said, or don't do. Don't monetize, don't permit embedding, allow the copy. And I always complied by default. I was challenged at a critical period of the 2014 referendum by STV. And I was hit with copyright strikes instantaneously with no warning, nothing like the BBC had been doing. I got no warning on it. And I didn't get shut down, but I got a severe slap in the wrist and had my privileges restricted. Now, theoretically, there's a right of appeal against these things. Having tried to exercise that right of appeal at that time, in 2014, I was led up a series of blind alleys, or in some cases saying, if you challenge the copyright on this, be aware of the risks of challenging copyright. So my position for 9 years has been to post clips, almost 95% of which are BBC, not to infringe the BBC's copyright and to comply fully. And I've made it clear that I would take any clip down totally if the copyright holder requested it. Not because I don't believe there are wider issues and why it should be up, but because I wasn't able to challenge the collective might of BBC, YouTube and Google in litigation. That's a big issue, challenging whether the BBC has the right to. So my position throughout, and now that if my channel was restored, to comply with copyright. So if my channel is restored, and we now know the status of that, my position is if the BBC asks me to take them all down, I'll take them all down. Somebody else to argue the copyright.
So when you've came back on you said it was the coming back from the pub, I think you said.
Yep.
And then you found obviously that your channel was down. I mean, you didn't receive a series of warnings asking for you to take the video down.
There was no lead up. I received a warning from a de facto statement from YouTube. Here's the challenge. I've listed it, I posted this online. The 12 clips there, in every case the complainant was the BBC. I was told you no longer have a channel. The catch-22 is I was then unable to access my channel, including some clips which belonged wholly to me, and another channel which is completely non-political, to determine the accuracy of my recollection that I'd always complied. So they said, you've committed this crime, but we deny you access to the evidence that you've done anything wrong.
So, so you've come home, you found that the videos have been, the channels have been taken down. You were unable to even look to see the evidence of the crime, if you will. And
let's call it the breach.
The breach. So then, from there, what was the first step you took?
The first step I took was to look back at the emails that I'd received from Google and Google YouTube, because they effectively are the one and the same thing. Google owns YouTube now. And to determine what I'd done wrong. And I then looked at, I could still view YouTube, but not my channel. So I viewed YouTube as a generic channel and looked at the rules very carefully again. And they offered various ways of addressing this. A couple of them were through YouTube, but one says if you want to challenge the copyright holder, you have to challenge the copyright holder, but advise me that there were risks in so doing. Because the law of copyright is hugely complicated. YouTube is an American-owned and located site, and the law of copyright in America differs, forgive me, very sharply from the law of copyright in Britain. So I tried to address it through YouTube and came up against a series of blind alleys. I just went round in circles. I made the appeal in the direction they said and was told, you can't appeal because you don't have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, they really got you with that one.
Alice in Wonderland country.
Yeah.
It's the old catch-22.
So what did you then, having no YouTube channel, did you have to make a YouTube channel, a separate YouTube channel to then go on and do that, or were you able to go a different route?
Well, the options open to me were very limited. The options open to me were, if I applied for another YouTube channel, I wouldn't get one. Why else would they have closed down my alternative channel, Moradura Alt, which had no politics on it at all? It was an arts, and I made a thing up about my old rock and roll boss, Alex Harvey, on that, a clip of Alex Harvey and the cast of Hair. It's gone.
Yeah.
So I had no option. The option for me then was to go to alternative hosting sites for videos. But with what? To post up the same videos that I had archived at home and have the BBC challenge the copyright, and probably with more draconian penalties, and perhaps put the channel I'd hosted them on into problems as well. So effectively I was, to quote an old Glasgow expression, there's never a door shuts but another one closes. Everywhere I went there was nowhere to go. So I was more or less thinking, well, I'll give up on it. It's gone. And I posted a tweet to this effect. It was of its time. I'm sorry it's gone. I'm not prepared to take on the collective might. I didn't expect the wave of support and everything that I got. And my route from then on would have been to produce my own clips, which contain no copyright, because I have a few clips on that, which are mine. It was me directly addressing the camera, sitting in my living room, talking about various issues. So I felt, well, it's done and dusted, and then there was a huge wave of online support on Twitter, which almost overwhelmed me. I mean, literally, I just couldn't cope with the thing. I was buried. I turned my back on the channel and there was 300 new tweets since you last looked at it. The bulk of which I didn't need to respond to, but I was losing the capacity to respond to people who were trying to tell me something significant. And then, well, I'll let you take it from there to see what more you need to know.
Yeah, so as you said, quite a significant wave of support came in, and you know, between Morradura and then, of course, the Wings Over Scotland, what happened is Alex Salmond himself also got involved.
Alex Salmond contacted me by email saying, I am addressing this to the Director General. I've already done it on behalf of you and Wings collectively, but would you give me any relevant material? And I gave more or less the things I've said to you, Lindy. And God bless him, he's went in like gangbusters with the Director General and his number 2, and it appears it may have worked.
Indeed. The good news is Broadcasting Scotland got in touch with BBC's Ian Small, and we asked whether or not the BBC had withdrawn the copyright infringement notices relating to your Morradura YouTube channel. And very pleased to say that they got back telling us that pending the review, the YouTube channel has now been restored. So I imagine you'd be quite relieved to hear that.
I'm delighted, and I only realised that when I arrived at Broadcasting Scotland today. So it was, as far as I was aware, when I left home in Kirkliston to come across, my channel was still down. So I was taken aback to find it had been restored and actually be shown it online.
So you'd be presumably quite, I mean, it would have been a fairly stressful week for you to be quite relieved. You'd be able to sort of relax a bit now. And
well, it was stressful perhaps for reasons that people wouldn't understand. It was not so much stressful the channel being taken down. I mean, I had moments of sadness and I thought, my God, 9 years working a lot of clips that were mine, totally owned by me, I've gone and I'm now a non-person to YouTube. I must admit I was a bit relieved. I thought, I don't have a YouTube channel, I can focus on other things, new beginnings, start again. Then I got the great wave of support, and I thought, well, I owe it to these people. And people were saying, why the hell are you not being as energetic as us in having your channel restored? I mean, Alex Salmond intervened, you know, a man of his, well, European and international status. I thought, well, I've got to get behind my own channel again. Now that it's up again, I'm pleased for a variety of reasons and a bit apprehensive that more is expected of me now in response to that. However, we're at where we're at.
Yeah.
As my Irish antecedents would say, if you wanted to get there, you shouldn't have started from here.
So yeah, following this positive news, I think the big question is what now?
What now? Well, the first crucial thing for me is to get back home and see if YouTube, Google, are saying anything more about what the copyright holder, i.e. the BBC, is requiring from me. And my position is still, I will comply. I have used for 9 years BBC copyright material. On any request on infringement of copyright, as far as I'm aware, I have complied with that, and my position now is if the BBC says take all BBC clips down, I will do that. I would think that would be extremely unwise of the BBC because of the wider implications of a public service broadcaster supposedly serving the 4 nations of the UK in our glorious union, to deny anybody who wants to look at my YouTube channel, and people do look at it internationally, I look at the demographics and I know that, but particularly the people of Scotland who, yes or no, if they looked at that objectively, leaving aside my partisan comments, it's an objective archive. One thing I should say about it is, at some point in the game, I shut down the whole site for comments. The reason for that is quite simple. You can leave comments open on a YouTube channel, which means anybody can comment and their comment is automatically posted by YouTube. Or you can require pre-moderation notification. Now that means if somebody posts something every day in an email, I will be advance notified of that response, and I have to scrutinize it and then take an active act to allow it to stand or not. I just couldn't cope with the volume. I was receiving at one point 400 emails a day, moderation. Now the vast bulk of them were not offensive or in any way potentially in breach of the law. And they often said, forgive the language, great, or bollocks, or nonsense. And there was no use of asterisks, I have to say. The 4-letter words. Some of them were a direct attack on me, every aspect of me. Some of them were hugely congratulatory. And some of them ignored me completely and used my channel as a vehicle to argue with each other. Now, I saw that that was in nobody's interest. Not in yes, not in no, not in Scotland's interest, not in the BBC's interest, that this unseemly... Other channels permit that. Newspaper channels permit it. In the Scotsman, I don't know how it is now, but it was notoriously unmoderated. The Herald, I have to say, does moderate and states clearly what its position is. So my channel has never been a debating channel. Funnily enough, the people who objected most strongly to that were on my side of the argument and saying, you are censoring our viewpoint. I said, I'm not censoring any. Censorship is somebody stopping you publishing.
Can I just sort of cut in on the subject of censorship and things? So, you know, in the event that perhaps, as you said, you're going to be going home, you're going to be checking to see what's maybe being requested of you by the BBC if they want you to take all these videos down. And you've said that you would comply with that. If you're being asked to take them down, you say, I'm really going to have to take them down, I can't compete with this. So there are some people who would argue that given that there are so many other channels on YouTube, and of course, you know, all over the internet as well, that also use BBC clips in the same method, the same way that you do, and these people aren't being asked to do such a thing.
Yeah. Anybody can verify that for themselves by simply looking. I would suggest they look for Question Time clips or Andrew Marshall clips, which accounted for the vast majority of my copyright strikes. They're all over the YouTube, unchallenged.
Yeah.
Some of them monetized.
So you don't think that you're really going to have, say, the money, the energy, the time to go and fight that kind of battle? That's going to have to... No,
it would be quite totally unrealistic for me as a retired elderly Scottish gentleman, some would argue the latter word, to take on the collective might of Google, YouTube and the British Broadcasting Corporation, not to mention the other shadowy organisations that provide massive funding to the anti-independence cause. And I do not have the resources or the expertise to do that. Now, there are a lot of armchair warriors out there who are happy to say to everybody else should get out and throw themselves on the barricades, including those on my own side. Well, let them do it. I'll be delighted to give all the information they need to fight my cause, and I'll applaud them if they bankrupt themselves in the process, but I ain't going to do it. when I go home tonight, it's conceivable that by tomorrow morning, if BBC has challenged the copyright of every one of my clips and demanded that I take them down, I may not have a YouTube channel again, except for the small residue, which are my clips or non-BBC clips. So it has... People won't remember this, but there was once a series of farces mounted on the London stage in the 50s. They were called the Whitehall farces. And long-legged girls in fishnet tights and men with their trousers falling down ran in and outside of doors, and they're mounted off by a guy called Brian Ricks. And I'm afraid this is degenerating into that kind of farce. The BBC is making itself ridiculous. And YouTube, I forgive them because they're American, but they're really not looking very hard at the best interests of their channel. And I am a tiny pawn in the game.
So I mean, there has been quite a wide discussion.
Very useful discussion.
Yeah, surrounding independent media using these platforms. You know, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. It's been a discussion for a while now, and I imagine it would be quite unnerving to find yourself somehow plonked right in the middle of that, and then obviously to have. You know, so much argument surrounding this, or debate, I should say, surrounding this. People on all sides have come in. You've got, you know, some quite big names have come in to argue on either side, and I imagine it has probably been quite...
That is probably the understatement of the century, Linda. I entered the independence debate in a tiny way. I was in my 72nd year and for the first time voting for a Scottish nationalist government, and I thought maybe I can do a tiny voice in this. My plans were either to continue with my consulting business, which was still active, or my writing, because I'd written a book back in 2015-17. I wanted to continue writing, but I got caught up in it. So my plans to enter my old age gracefully, dribble in my cardigan and take the dogs out were blown away. And I thought I was escaping from that, but I'm not. But I have no choice. I mean, I don't want this to sound grandiose, but the independence movement has put people to their utter astonishment at a pivotal point in history. Every Scottish voter and what they do every day now matters fundamentally. Brexit, the appalling long-running terrible farce which is moving into tragedy of Brexit, is taking the UK over a cliff edge and making Great Britain the laughingstock of Europe and the world because of the bizarre behaviour. I have no choice now but to stick with it, and I hope it re-energises me in some way to do it. But only a tiny feature. I mean, of the two caught up in this, Wings, not particularly for his YouTube channel, but for his total significance to the independence movement, is infinitely more significant than I am in terms of his reach and the range of things he's able to do, because Wings is a substantial fundraiser, and he's a very large band of dedicated and committed followers who at a whistle will send him large sums of money. I've never sought money, not because I'm unselfish, I just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But I am no hero of the independence movement, believe me.
Mm. But I'm quite sure there'll be people who very much admire the fact that you will be continuing on with your channel, even if it does mean you're taking down the BBC clips that you might have used. There are a lot of people who'd be very happy to see.
Well, I'll do new things. I'll have to revisit. The only real option open to me, go back to making my own clips free of copyright material, and that unfortunately will inflict on the nation my face, which I've been trying to avoid doing.
I'm sure it's a lovely face to Mary. Certainly me anyway.
Tell that to my family.
Oh dear. So yeah, I'm glad it's for now. It's certainly, although it's not over, it's sitting at quite a positive juncture. I think we'll all be very interested to see how this progresses.
I'm not sure where we're at, Linda. British politics is... Let me tell you how long I've been involved in politics. I was delivering leaflets for the Independent Labour Party in the 1945 general election, running on the running board of cars and running up and down closes and tenements and helping old ladies into cars to take them 5 minutes up the road to the local school. My whole family's been deeply Labour all my life, but that has gone. I must have seen something like 18 general elections in that period. So I'm not claiming any virtue of being old, but I have got a long perspective. I've never seen such chaos in British politics in my lifetime. I doubt if there ever has been such a chaotic period while we've had relatively modern politics. Americans have an expression which is derogatory, unfortunately demeans a whole industrial class. They say they're a bunch of Gandhi dancers and railroad men. Gandhi dancers were the people that built the railroads and hammered in the spikes, and they were a notoriously disreputable and chaotic bunch. They got the job done. And British politics, since Brexit, has been... I mean, it'd be great if I could sit back in my armchair with a large Craggan Moor and laugh at it, but it's not a laughing matter. People's lives... I've got a number of followers who are either married to or are EU citizens who are in a state of critical uncertainty about their status because of the utterly cack-handed, chaotic and inhuman way this Tory government has defined Brexit, and frankly, by the way the Labour Party is failing to do anything significant about it.
Well, it certainly is interesting. I wouldn't argue that, but certainly in terms of the Moradura channel, things are hopefully going to be looking up moving forward. Whether things get taken down or whether you're having to put in your own content, as you said, have your pretty face on camera.
Yeah, I'm not going to give up. I'm now, sadly for me, feel obligated to all the people who are kind enough to offer me support and message, and there have been a lot of them. There have been a lot. I've been able to reply to them all. I've got an unwanted mini celebrity, which I'm sure will be very transitory, I hope. It's not at all a comfortable place to be, but I've got a debt to these people now, and I'll have to discharge it. So I'll do something.
Yeah, I'm certainly glad they'll be very glad to hear this. So this is Peter Curran. This is the man behind the Moradura channel, and it's been lovely to have you. Thank you very much for coming on. And this is Scotland at 7. I'm Lindy Harrison. Thanks for watching.